He started as a broke college kid with a dial-up connection and a curious mind. Today, his name is tied to one of the largest marketing training platforms on the internet, a global conference brand, and a portfolio of frameworks used by entrepreneurs in every industry. But the path was not what anyone expected. Ryan Deiss did not come from legacy media or Madison Avenue. He came from the era of forums and early blogs, where experiments were the only credential that mattered. He read everything available about copywriting and direct response. He launched tiny websites that sold tiny products. Some days the numbers worked. Most days they did not. Each test taught the language of the internet buyer. Short headlines beat long ones. Clear offers beat clever ones. Proof matters more than promises. The classroom was the market. He noticed a pattern that others missed. The internet made it cheap to get attention, but expensive to keep it. Companies chased clicks and impressions. They underinvested in relationships. He began to sketch a different approach. Treat strangers like strangers. Turn them into friends. Then turn friends into customers. Then turn customers into fans. The idea was simple. The execution would take years. As the tests stacked up, a decision emerged. Stop building one-off offers. Start building systems. The system would have a customer journey. It would have lead magnets and tripwires and core offers. It would use email to nurture and ads to scale. It would teach itself what worked because every touchpoint would be measured. That system needed a lab. The lab became a company. DigitalMarketer was born as a training and education platform. It was created to teach what was being tested in the wild. New channels came online. New tools launched every month. The lab documented what worked. The platform turned it into checklists, templates, and step-by-step playbooks. Tens of thousands of marketers began to copy the patterns. Agencies trained their teams on the material. Founders used the frameworks to launch products. According to DigitalMarketer's public materials, the signature model is called the customer value journey, a simple map of how a stranger becomes a customer and then an advocate. Training alone was not enough. People wanted a place to gather. In 2009, the first Traffic and Conversion Summit convened a small group of practitioners. The idea was clear. No hype. No theory. Only what was working now. Year after year, the event grew. The venue sizes increased. The speaker roster expanded. What started as a room became an arena. According to a 2018 press release on PR Newswire, Traffic and Conversion Summit matured into one of North America's largest digital marketing conferences before being acquired by Clarion Events. The gathering proved there was a market for practical marketing content at scale. The event did more than sell tickets. It created network effects. Speakers shared their best systems. Attendees partnered on new ventures. Investors scouted opportunities. A community formed, and with it, a trust loop that spilled back into the training business. When the frameworks evolved, the community adopted them quickly. Retention increased. Word of mouth accelerated. The first real breakthrough came from a contrarian insight. Most marketers tried to shortcut the relationship. They pushed for the sale too soon. Ryan Deiss taught a different cadence. Offer something small and fast first. That small, low-risk purchase unlocks trust. It is not about revenue. It is about momentum. He popularized the idea of the tripwire offer, a tiny product that turns a subscriber into a buyer quickly, so future offers do not have to cross a cold start. E-commerce brands used it. SaaS brands used it. Coaches and authors used it. The tactic worked because it was rooted in human behavior, not platform hacks. Then came the second breakthrough. The email channel, often abused by marketers, could be the most valuable asset in a business if handled with respect. Instead of shouting, he taught structured nurture, educational sequences, segmented offers, long-form sales letters sent in a series, cart abandonment flows. He wrote a book that codified this approach, Invisible Selling Machine. The book explained how to engineer messaging that sells without feeling like selling. It became a reference work for teams who wanted a repeatable playbook for follow-up. The idea was not new. The architecture was. As the frameworks matured, the portfolio expanded. Membership training for operators. Certifications for specialists. Masterminds for founders and executives. War Room Mastermind gathered growth leaders to compare notes confidentially. The platform gave rising talent credentials they could show to employers and clients. It also gave companies a common language. A junior marketer in Madrid could speak the same campaign anatomy as a director in Miami. That shared language accelerated execution. He built much of this without venture capital. The funding model was customer revenue. The reinvestment model was simple. Launch a product. Prove the offer. Roll profits into the next experiment. Keep fixed costs tight relative to revenue. As cash flow stabilized, hire specialists. Buy tools that multiply output. The business compounding came not from a single hit, but from a drumbeat of consistent, mid-sized wins. That is the part that outsiders miss because it is not flashy. But that is not the full picture. Growth creates constraints. Platforms change their rules. Ads get more expensive. Email deliverability tightens. Marketing that worked 1 year stalls the next. This is where most education companies fall behind. They keep selling last year's playbook because it is easier to market than it is to rewrite. The bet at DigitalMarketer was different. Keep the lab alive. Keep testing. Retire what no longer works. Teach the new pattern, even if it cannibalizes a previous offer. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, a critical strategic decision took shape. The event brand had become large enough to stand on its own. Operating a major conference is a different business than operating a training platform. Logistics, venues, sponsors, and global expansion all require a different muscle. According to PR Newswire, Clarion Events acquired Traffic and Conversion Summit in early 2018. Trade publications like The Drum reported the deal as a move that would allow the conference to scale globally under an experienced events operator. The sale created focus. The training machine could remain a lab. The event could become a global platform under new ownership. Selling an asset changes a founder's time horizon. It frees up space for the next build. It also tests whether a brand was a personality or a platform. After the sale, the frameworks still resonated. The community kept growing. Certifications remained in demand. That is what platform looks like. It works even when the creator steps to the side. At that same moment, another company formed to serve a different customer. Scalable.co became the home for founders who had moved beyond product market fit into the hard work of team building and decision making. The training shifted from campaign templates to operating systems. How to set quarterly priorities. How to define roles and scorecards. How to build a cadence of meetings that do not waste time. The content moved from getting leads to leading people. It fit the arc of the same audience that had grown up with the marketing frameworks. The approach in this phase mirrored the early playbook. Build a free front door. Offer a simple, useful tool. Convert a subset of users into paying members. Layer in workshops. Add an advisory model. Host small, intensive events for operators. Build a marketplace of playbooks. The core idea held firm. Treat growth as a process. Write it down. Make it teachable. Then test it in the wild until it breaks or becomes a standard. What happened next surprised many people who had only known him as the marketing guy. The operator content hit a nerve. Founders who had mastered acquisition felt stuck at 12 or 25 or 50 employees. They did not need more ads. They needed a system to run the company. Scalable provided that system. It combined practical tools with a library of training. It created a shared language for leadership inside growth companies. It echoed what had worked in DigitalMarketer, but at a different altitude. There were plenty of headwinds. The cost of attention rose across all platforms. Privacy changes cut the effectiveness of retargeting. Attribution became messy. Events across the industry faced cancellations and postponements during global disruptions. Entire marketing channels shifted, and the market demanded new answers. Yet the lab model absorbed the shocks. New frameworks emerged. Lifecycle marketing got smarter. Offers got cleaner. Brands shifted from one funnel to a portfolio of conversion paths, each tied to intent, stage, and ticket size. The education kept pace because the people building the frameworks were operators, not just instructors. Through it all, one principle anchored the empire. Systems first, tools second. Tools come and go. A system survives. The customer value journey worked in email and it worked in chat. It worked in webinars and it worked in live events. It worked in B2B and it worked in B2C. The words changed. The steps did not. Awareness. Engagement. Subscription. Conversion. Excitement. Ascension. Advocacy. Promotion. When a team knows where a campaign lives on that map, decisions get faster. That speed compounds across a company. Another principle drove outcomes that look like luck from the outside. Build in public. Teach as you learn. Publishing the playbook attracts the people who are ready to use it. Those people then provide the data that sharpens the playbook. It is a beautiful loop. It also creates unfair advantages. Recruiting gets easier because candidates know how you think. Partnerships happen because peers trust your process. Speaking invitations arrive because event owners know you deliver practical value. Authority turns into opportunity. There is also a financial lesson baked into this story. Education businesses can have elite unit economics when built with discipline. Gross margins are high. Working capital needs are modest. Upsell ladders create multiple revenue streams per customer. Annual recurring models smooth cash flow. These properties let a founder ride out storms that sink inventory-heavy businesses. They also give room to invest in R&D that is the real moat in a market where last year's tactics decay quickly. Skeptics will point out that frameworks are abstractions. Real businesses are messy. That is true. It is also true that the right abstraction removes chaos. A founder does not need 100 ideas. A founder needs one map, a handful of proven plays, and the discipline to run them well. That is what transformed a small blog into a global training platform. That is what turned a meetup into a major conference acquired by a global events company. According to PR Newswire, Clarion Events made the acquisition in 2018 to expand the brand into new markets. Deals like that do not happen to personalities. They happen to platforms. But that is not the full picture. Empires are tested most at their edges. There were product launches that flopped. There were ad campaigns that lost money. There were partnerships that looked perfect on paper and complicated in practice. The difference was in how the losses were handled. Small bets. Fast feedback. Honest postmortems. The lab model again. Build. Measure. Document. Teach. Repeat. What about legacy? What changes did this empire actually cause? The biggest change is cultural. Marketing moved from guesswork to playbooks. The idea that a campaign can be designed, named, documented, and taught like a recipe took hold. This made high-quality marketing accessible to small companies that could not afford an agency. It also elevated in-house teams by giving them language to persuade their leadership to fund a test. When hundreds of thousands of people share a vocabulary, an industry matures faster. Look at the career arcs of practitioners who adopted the frameworks early. Many of them now lead growth at venture-backed startups. Others run agencies that serve national brands. Some became founders who used the same ideas to raise capital and scale. They cite the playbooks openly. They recommend the certifications to new hires. This is what compounding looks like in education. It shows up in other people's results. There is a second legacy effect tied to the event. Before T&C, industry conferences often split into two camps. Academic and fluffy, or pitch-heavy and shallow. Traffic and Conversion Summit insisted on practical sessions with real examples. That insistence forced speakers to raise their game. Attendees began to expect more. As reported by industry press, the brand became synonymous with tactical content, and Clarion Events invested to expand its footprint. The standard changed, and many events followed. It is worth asking what made all of this work beyond the tactics. The answer is focus on sequence. Every growth story is a sequencing story. Learn what to sell. Learn who to sell it to. Learn how to acquire them profitably. Then build the team that can deliver repeatably. Then document the system and delegate execution. Then scale the channel mix with a budget. Skipping steps looks faster. It is not. The sequence discipline freed the founder from chasing hacks. It kept the company from bloating in the wrong places. There is also personal leverage at play. Books like Invisible Selling Machine turn a philosophy into an asset. Speaking turns a framework into a movement. A movement pulls in partners, media, and talent. This is leverage that does not require factories or large capital outlays. It requires clarity and consistency. For builders without deep pockets, this is a map worth copying. What happened during industry shocks showed the strength of the model. When platforms changed their rules, the system adapted without starting over. When live events across the world paused, the training engine continued to ship content. When ad costs increased, lifetime value increased through better onboarding, better ascension paths, and better retention content. Operators who depend on one channel die with that channel. Operators who understand the journey can switch lanes and keep moving. For anyone building now, here is the quiet truth. The strategy is not secret. It is hiding in plain sight. Teach what you learn. Create playbooks. Build a community around those playbooks. Use that community to make better playbooks. Build products that help people implement them faster. Then earn the right to help at higher levels, in masterminds, in advisory, and in done-with-you services. Each layer funds the next. Each layer de-risks the previous. That is how an empire is assembled without a war chest. Founders ask about acquisition and exits. Should a brand be sold? Should it be held? The Traffic and Conversion Summit story offers a lesson. If an asset can grow faster and create more value under a specialist owner, consider the sale. Keep a role that preserves the brand's core promise. Focus your time on what you do best. According to the Drum's coverage, Clarion acquired the event to accelerate growth in new markets. The training brand continued under its own strategy. The right deal can create freedom and expansion at the same time. This is not a story of one genius idea. It is the story of one durable approach. Define value in a way that can be taught. Package it into layers. Build community around it. Sell the right product to the right person at the right time. Document what works. Share it. Then do it again. Do this for a year and you have a business. Do it for a decade and you have an empire. The final insight belongs to leadership. Marketing brings people to the door. Leadership keeps them in the house. As Scalable emphasized, the constraint inside growing companies is rarely a lack of tactics. It is a lack of systems and a lack of management rhythm. The founder who learns to hold the weekly meeting well, who hires and fires against clear scorecards, who sets 3 priorities per quarter and gets rid of everything else, will lap the founder who only knows how to make an ad. It is unglamorous work. It is also the work that creates durable companies. Here is the practical checklist that any entrepreneur can use today. First, map your customer value journey on a single page. Second, name 1 lead magnet, 1 tripwire, 1 core offer, and 1 profit maximizer. Third, choose 1 channel for traffic and build your first playbook. Fourth, set a weekly marketing meeting with a clear scorecard. Fifth, build your onboarding sequence so new customers get a win in the first week. Sixth, plan 1 ascension path for best buyers. Seventh, measure. When something works, document it. When something fails, document that too. Over time, this library will be your moat. What if you are starting with nothing? The path is the same, just smaller. A single-page website. A single useful download. A single email sequence. A single low-priced offer. A single testimonial. A single ad set. The goal is not to build a massive funnel. The goal is to build a working one. Then expand with discipline. There is a temptation to dismiss frameworks once you know them. Resist it. Professionals practice basics. The playbooks work because they are rooted in psychology and sequence. Tools will change. Offers will change. Your market will mature. The basics will carry you through if you let them. So, how does this story end? It does not. That is the point. An empire built on education and community keeps compounding as long as it keeps learning. New platforms will appear. New operators will join. New playbooks will emerge. The lab will test. The platform will teach. The community will implement. Results will feed back. The flywheel will spin. From a college dorm test to a global training platform. From a small meetup to a major conference brand acquired by a global events company. From marketing tactics to leadership systems for scale. This is how Ryan Deiss built, codified, and scaled an empire in plain sight. Not with a single product, but with a repeatable way of building demand and turning knowledge into value. If you enjoyed learning about this empire builder's journey and you're interested in building your own empire, there is something you need to know. This person and 78% of the Forbes 400 use a specific strategy to build massive businesses and multiply their wealth systematically. But here is what most people miss: there is a pattern. A strategy hiding in plain sight. The Forbes 400 know it. They exploit it. They have built fortunes with it. And it has been hidden from mainstream business education for decades. First link in the description reveals what the titans of industry do not talk about publicly. Watch it next. 10 minutes that could change everything.